My name is Jen Jones, and I live in a little tiny village called Llanybodder, which is in the county of Ceredigion in West Wales, and the nearest town anybody might have heard about is Lampeter. The cottage housing the shop was built in 1735, and anybody who comes here finds it an absolute treat because it's one of the few remaining vernacular small cottages in the area. I have about 300 quilts in the shop and about 300 Welsh blankets, and I buy and sell antique Welsh quilts and blankets and have for about 35 years. During that time I have assembled a private collection. I've put aside an example of almost everything I could find, every different type of quilt and blanket ever made in Wales. And my private collection numbers about 250 quilts and about 100 blankets. It was a cottage industry in Wales, quilt making, from about 1850 until the outbreak of the Second World War. And very, very few quilts were made after the war. The women went off to work in factories and into the towns, and they didn't want to sit and make quilts anymore because the remuneration was pretty meagre. And when I came to Wales in 1970, everybody was about to throw, or in the process of throwing out, their quilts and blankets. They considered them old bedding, and like the brass bedsteads and the Welsh dressers and the settles, they were being discarded and replaced with wonderful, shiny, modern equivalents. The quilts were mainly made by these professional quilters, and usually just one woman and an apprentice. The woman was either a spinster in the village or a town and in need of a way to earn her living, or very often they were miners' widows. And back then there was no pension scheme, and there were these awful mine disasters, and these women would be left with maybe 4 or 5 children and no visible means of support. So they could turn to prostitution, housekeeping or domestic service, or sewing, and a great many of them decided sewing was the lesser of 3 evils. So they would become quilters, and although it was a job and they did it as a profession, there must have been something in those women, because these quilts are not made without an enormous amount of creativity and love. So the quilts of today, which I find interesting, but not as exciting as the Welsh ones, because the women who make them now are striving for perfection, and they have the means to buy the fabrics to make the perfect combination of designs. But most of them now are done on a machine, and I can't understand this. I mean, the handwork that these Welsh ladies did, and the sort of innate creativity that came out in the process of producing the quilt is what really is exciting to me. And they didn't mind if things weren't absolutely geometric or the stitching was terribly precise the way the women today think they should be. They just did it, and the end result is enormously exciting as far as I'm concerned. But when this ended, or pretty well nearly ended, with the outbreak of the Second World War, and as quilting became less popular in Wales, other forms of bedding started to come in, including these rather amazing comfy quilts. These are called comfies, and they were made by a company in Scotland, and they're all the same design. They have a diamond in the middle and a diamond in the middle on the other side as well. And one is the plain fabric in the middle and a floral or paisley around the edge, and the other side is the opposite. And they come in all kinds of colors, they're all cotton, and they were bought in cellophane packages. They were mass produced. And this company went out of business in 1933. So they're old, and they too now have become collectible. I mean, we actually sold one not too long ago in mint condition that still had its price tag on it, and most of them still have the little label saying comfy. And people are intrigued by them, and in their own way, I mean, they're far less expensive than the hand-sewn ones, but they are collectible. If you come in here, you'll see the actual fringed blankets, and these are 20th century and made up into the 70s, and they are really vibrant and wonderful. And these are plaids with fringes, and these probably were the most popular, and they were given as wedding presents, as were the tapestry ones, and collected by people as bedding for the household, and again, you know, discarded when the duvets came in. Luckily, people are beginning to want them back, and so the ones I've saved for the shop are now being sold quite readily, and they are far less expensive than a brand new blanket from Selfridges, and that also makes them attractive. Sometimes we get a quilt that is really unsaleable because it is damaged. And what we do is, well, what I don't do because I can't sew at all, but what Janet Bridge, who works with me, does is convert them into something that lets a little part of the quilt remain in existence. And so nothing is allowed to go to waste. And a tiny part of a wonderful artifact, which I think these are, is better than discarding the whole thing or making it into a dog bed. They can be very, very heavy, these quilts, because some of them don't have the lovely lamb's wool in them. They have a blanket or they have another quilt inside. And so we have a bathtub on stilts, and Hazel washes them very carefully. And then sometimes it takes two of us to carry them out to the line, which is a series of lines, because one would snap. And we spread them out and we dry them, and the difference is phenomenal. Nothing comes in the shop unless it's clean. Over the years we have had bad experiences with things we've been storing, waiting to wash. So we're pretty meticulous. Now I want to show you the other type of blanket. And these actually, when we go upstairs, I'll show you some more, but these intrigue me. These are the narrow loom blankets. And what I'll do is show you how they were made. This was before, these are mainly 19th century. And in the 19th century, the loom was only that wide, half the size of a blanket. And so the blanket is made in two pieces. You can see the seam, and they did the seam by hand. And these are slightly more, as the interior decorators describe them, gritty than the others. And they are actually my favorite. And the ones in my collection are mainly these gritty, narrow loom blankets, which are mainly, as I say, 19th century. But I'll show you some other examples upstairs. Come on up. Be careful, It's a very precarious staircase, but it's original. We have all these dust sheets around because of the light on the textiles, but this is my favorite room upstairs. And here we have more of these wonderful blankets. I mean, if I put one on the bed for you, you'll see they're just splendid things. And so simple. Just simple and elegant. And many of these were made in little back rooms and by individuals with their own little looms. And this is natural indigo and cream. This is the cream is the natural wool color, and then the stripe is indigo dye, which was used quite a lot. And around the rest of the room are more quilts. Thousands and thousands of quilts have passed through this room. And the florals are probably the most popular. I find them very, very pretty, but not as interesting as the patchworks, especially the flannel patchworks, which I collect. And I have one in the shop at the moment, but ordinarily I don't sell them at all. Let me show you. These floral quilts are two-sided usually, sometimes a plain back and flowers. This one has lots of flowers, and these are very popular. And you can see the stitching, which is typically Welsh, and all hand done. These were made on a frame and completely hand done. Sometimes they hemmed it with a machine, and the join in the fabric is usually done with a machine. But other than that, all the quilting and all the work on it is hand. And when you think what that would cost to do today, I mean, these are fabulous buys. They really, really are. And anybody interested in collecting textiles can't go wrong with these, because in good condition, they will go up and up and up in value as they become rarer and rarer, which they are already. I'm Jen Jones for Antiques.tv.